All right, we are live. It's Dr. J here in the house. Happy Friday. Hope everyone is doing phenomenal. What is going on? Let me know. We got a live Q&A session here today. What's on your mind? Feel free and put your comments in the chat. If you're enjoying these podcasts or videos or live Q&As, give me a thumbs up right now. I really appreciate it. Also, give me a share. Let your friends and family know about this type of information so they can feel supported and get some additional information about their health challenges. Also, if you have any questions or future podcast or video topics, would love to hear it as well. Put your comments down below. Really want to know what you guys are thinking. Awesome. All right, so let's dive in. What is going on? So I did a video on omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. I think this is really important because omega-3 and omega-6 ratio, it really is just paramount of the standard American kind of junky processed food diet. The more you increase the quality of animal product that you eat, and the more you kind of get out the junky fats, the refined processed foods, and the sugar, your omega-3 to 6 ratio tends to go back into balance. 1 to 1, 4 to 1. So 1 to 1 meaning for every 1 omega-6, 1 omega-3, up to 4 to 1, 4 omega-6 to 1 omega-3 is a pretty good ratio in this day and age. So increase the quality of your pasture-fed eggs, grass-fed meat. Try to choose really good quality protein sources. Spend a little bit extra there to get extra nutrition in your food. All right, that's just kind of a take-home from last time's call. All right, very good. So Dennis writes in, I heard a chiropractor say that any molecule with dextro prefix is toxic. Why is that? So the thinking on that is that dextro typically means corn sugar. So if it's dextrose, it's usually corn sugar. And the fact that corn is the most heavily genetically modified food and has the largest amount of Roundup or glyphosate residue, that's probably the thinking behind that. Josh writes in, curious, how long does it take for an ulcer to heal if one strictly follows the 6 R's? I'm going to use your GI Clear 2. Would it help to supplement with additional mastic gum and golden seal? Yeah, in my line, we would use GI Clear 2 and 4, maybe something else. But before we do that, we'd really work on the first 3 R's, removing the bad foods, replacing the enzymes, really working on healing nutrients for the gut lining, ginger, L-glutamine, slippery elm, DGL. We may even want to do more of a GAPS or a soup kind of crock-pot based diet to make everything a little bit easier. Make sure, Josh, you are working with a good functional medicine doc, because if you have an ulcer issue, it's you want to be on top of it because you can lose blood and you can go anemic and other issues can happen as a result. So you want to make sure that you're managing that appropriately. Ben writes in, anxiety video. Yeah, we can do a topic on that. We've done a lot of podcasts and videos on that topic already, so feel free. Check out, if you go to justinhealth.com and you check out the search button, a lot of our podcasts are all transcribed. So you can literally go over there, type in anything, and you'll get a transcription of whatever that podcast was. Excellent. My doctor said I have a CAB condition. I need to know what CAB stands for. That help. Lambert writes in, Dr. J, Microbe Lab does not support the mainstream probiotics with lactobacillus and bifido, just promote their spore-based probiotics. What's your opinion about that? I mean, I do like the spore-based probiotics. I probably would not use it just by itself, meaning I would still want to give some level of bifidobacteria and or lactobacillus. The only time I would not use it if some patients have a lot of probiotic intolerance, they just can't handle it. Like they get bloated or gassy, then I would lean more away from that and go more on the spore-based probiotic side. So it really just depends. It's a case by case. Jenny writes, Dr. J, I'm on AIP for Hashimoto's for 5 weeks. Doing okay, but not great. What would you suggest next? Thanks, Dr. J. So in general, make sure you're working with a functional medicine doctor. So it really would depend upon what comes back with your labs. How well your digestion is, sleep, and then kind of where your hormones are at. Is your thyroid dialed in? Are your hormone levels good? How are your autoimmune levels? Are they dropping? Are they same? Are they going up? Where are your adrenals at? Where are your female hormones at? How's your cycle? How's PMS? How's your gut function? How's mitochondria? How's detox? So the problem with that question, it makes me want to ask 10 more questions. So until I got that information, that would kind of dictate what those next steps would be. Hope that helps. Okay, excellent. All right, guys, wonderful. No, I do not know what CAB means. Feel free, Google it in the context of how your doctor told you it, and then you can let me know. All right, excellent. So I got a couple patients coming up here today. I would just say the biggest challenge I've been seeing recently is patients that go through a round of clearing herbs and they're not all the way better. So I always tell patients, there's a 70% chance we're going to be able to knock things out significantly round one when we use any type of antimicrobial support. Now, it just depends. There's always a chance that someone can get reinfected from a spouse or partner. There's always that, right? So we always have to factor in what's happening around in the surroundings. Number two, we have to make sure deeper infections aren't there. We have to make sure that we have the diet dialed in. I see so many patients, they're just chronically sick because they are having problems with the food that they're eating. So even healthy food, I always tell patients to do their best in rotating their foods. If you love it, rotate it. Make sure you have the ability to get access to different things, because foods that are inflammatory, even healthy foods, because your immune system has been overly exposed to them, we may have to be rotating things in and out to get a little more variety. Excellent. All right, Kelly writes in, forgot to ask, after being on your GI Clear protocol and cut on my finger healed after 2 years, seemed that something happened with my gut. So you had a cut on your finger that healed after 2 years. So more than likely what I'm thinking there, Kelly, is you're just absorbing nutrition a lot better. You're absorbing your nutrients. Yeah, I think you may even be on some extra collagen too, but you're probably just getting better absorption and all those nutrients. Now your body has enough of those building blocks where it can allocate towards healing. So that's pretty awesome. That's really great. I see that a lot with guys. Sometimes they'll start growing their hair back, right? Because they actually have nutrients to get to their hair follicle. That can happen too. Ty writes in, what could help lower cholesterol, late 50s, female, fibro, stop statin due to side effects, starting up AIP diet? So the first question is, do we even need to lower your cholesterol? I would need to look at the actual numbers. Just total cholesterol by itself is not helpful. You'd want to know particle size or LDL number. You'd want to know what your HDL to triglyceride ratio is. You'd want to know what your total cholesterol to HDL ratio is. Because if those numbers are adequate, then it may not even be a big deal. But if it is high, the first thing we do is look at getting insulin in check. Insulin is a big deal because high amounts of insulin or insulin resistance can cause our liver, that HMG-CoA reductase enzyme, which is stimulated by insulin. 90% of the cholesterol in our body is made by our body. So diet has very, very little impact. I've seen vegans and vegetarians with sky-high cholesterol. Okay, it happens. I know that may come into a, challenge a lot of vegans or vegetarians listening, but I've seen that. Now, I've also seen vegans with very low cholesterol too. So, the more insulin sensitive you are, the greater chance of having lower cholesterol. But cholesterol greater than 120 is going to increase your risk of cancer and mental, emotional issues, depression, anxiety. So there is the double-edged side of the coin. So typically, we're going to get the insulin under control. And then if cholesterol is still very high with that, we're going to look at any other gut inflammation, get that under control. And then we look at thyroid. Before statins were created, thyroid hormone was actually used to treat high cholesterol. Now, that's still not getting to the root cause. It could be the root cause, but you can lower someone's cholesterol even if your thyroid was normal by giving them thyroid hormone. Because when you raise your metabolism up, you're going to be metabolizing cholesterol at a higher rate. Now, personally, I much rather see that used over a statin. This is my professional opinion. Less side effects. When you give a statin, the HMG-CoA reductase enzyme is here in the metabolic pathway, and the mevalonic acid pathway is down below, and this is the pathway that makes CoQ10. So when you block HMG up here, you're going to block your internal production of CoQ10, and CoQ10 is really, really important for energy and for your mitochondria to work appropriately. All right, just going through here. And that's why fibromyalgia can happen, because when your mitochondria is flogged or impaired, you can see that. Ben writes in, had mold for 4 years, looking to detox. Do you practice Shoemaker's protocol? I mean, I do some variations of that. It just depends. Like, so the first thing with mold is, do we have it in your house still? Does your house need to be addressed? That's number one. Number two is we have to see what are your internal mold levels looking like. So what's the environment look like? What do your levels look like? Those are the first two questions. And then where is your overall health at? Because if we can just change the environment and just get you healthier by addressing diet, lifestyle, hormones, gut, that makes everything else better without even going directly at the mold. So it just depends upon how good or bad other things are. If someone's already really healthy and they're already working on stuff, that's where we may get into helping the mold detoxify better, where we give, glutathione, certain binders, certain herbs to help open the lymphatics. But I typically only go after that once the gut's working, because so much of detoxification happens via the gut, and too many people go after, powerful detoxification protocols without good gut function. So you got to get the gut dialed in first. Can you treat Lyme disease? Can I? Yes, I treat Lyme all the time. We just have to make sure that all the other things are dialed in. Most Lyme has so many symptoms, unless you have an acute tick bite or we know there are some strong labs supporting that it's Lyme. A lot of times Lyme is other things. And the problem with chronic Lyme issues is the antibiotics that people are prescribed for chronic Lyme creates a lot of side effects that are of Lyme. So it becomes this vicious self-defeating cycle. Is it Lyme? Is it the antibiotics? Is it something else? So yeah, I do. And a lot of times Lyme may not even really be Lyme. Could be other things too, or it could be Lyme and other things. You have the right to have more than one thing going on at the same time. Delta, you're right. And what are some tips to improve libido for men? So the first thing is insulin resistance, getting insulin under control, because that's going to stop the aromatization of testosterone to estrogen. That's the enzyme that switches your hormones out. So number one is insulin. Two, getting inflammation in your diet down. From a nutritional perspective, supporting zinc, supporting selenium, supporting magnesium levels, supporting the adrenals. High cortisol can restrict blood flow, and that can make it harder to have a libido. The more your sympathetic nervous system is activated, that's going to decrease your libido. That's, foreplay or just kind of maintaining an erection. That's all about parasympathetic nervous system. So if your sympathetics are in overdrive and you can't switch gears to get the parasympathetics on, it's going to be impossible to have a libido. And then so herbally, you can do things like Tongkat Ali, Tribulus, maca, ginseng, all the nutrients I mentioned earlier. These are powerful things that can help. There's a couple of products out there that I use that work really, really well. Oh, Kelly writes in, your hair is fuller as well. That's great. That's good that your hairdresser noticed that. That's awesome. Very cool. Jay writes in, Jay, my son is 13, just had 3 permanent teeth removed from failed root canals. Yikes. What can I do to help his gut and prevent infection? So if he had permanent teeth removed from failed root canals, you'd want to, number one, you're probably going to need some level of an implant. So just make sure you do the proper testing to get the material you use for the implant. Make sure it's biologically compatible. There's some testing that you can do. I think Clifford's research does one. You can do some kinesiological testing to help assess that. Just make sure whatever implants he gets, that material is test for biological compatibility, number one. Number two, you got to get to the root cause. So off the bat, if his diet's crap, fix the diet. Number two, if he's not digesting and absorbing nutrition, you got to fix that next. So I would recommend you need to find a good functional medicine doc to work with him, because that's scary. At age 13, if teeth are being removed, there's some serious concerns there. Josh writes in, follow-up question, how many, if I may, how strict should one be? I'm almost perfectly paleo these days, but I do have a slip up here and there. A small slip up is enough to feed my H. pylori. It depends. If you have active issues, you really want to be dialed in with your diet until those active issues are stabilized. And then the next issue is, do you have an active autoimmune issue? The more you have an active autoimmune issue, you really want to find healthier cheat substitutes versus just doing gluten and a whole bunch of crap. So just do your best to find healthier cheat substitutes. I.e., I may have like a Hail Mary over like, a gluten junkie cake, right? Like my son's birthday that we had just recently, we got him a special gluten-free cake, right? So we just try to, even when we cheat, we're trying to do good, healthy options, so we're not going to all the crap. So just do your best to find that healthy option. Riley writes in, Quicksilver's liposomal glutathione 1 pump seems to give me a Herx reaction during the heavy metal detox. Is this normal? You're probably just pulling out a lot of metals, Riley. That's probably the big thing. So if that's happening, I would probably take it more or closer to binders. So I think I have you on some binders. So I would make sure you're taking it potentially closer to binders, or take more binders in and around that dose. So whatever is coming out, you can absorb it better. Primal writes in, Best time to take a binder when doing a pathogen cleanse. Typically 2 hours after, 1 hour before is a good general recommendation. Matt writes in, Doctor, I've had muscle twitches all over my body for almost a year. I've tried supplementing with magnesium, potassium, nothing works. Any suggestions? I can't sleep. So the twitching, if you're not sleeping, it could also be because your cortisol's jacked up, I should say. So your cortisol's all messed up, right? It's all out of balance. And because that cortisol either is low or high or lots of adrenaline, that could be stimulating you, keeping you up. And then that could be that fight or flight hormone could be keeping your muscles overly stimulated. So you're doing good if you're doing potassium and magnesium, but you may have to look deeper at the gut and deeper at the hormones. If those issues are off, they have to be addressed. Primal writes in, what's your favorite air filter and best ways to keep a dry room cool in summer days? So I have 3 or 4 different kinds in my house. I have the Austin Air in my office and in my bedroom and all my son's rooms. Number one, I like it because I change the air filter once every 5 years. I love that. It's just easy. It's got zeolite and charcoal in there, so it's good for binding up mold. I like it. It's pretty low tech. I also have the Air Doctor, which still works really well. I just don't like the fact they have a light on it. Even at nighttime, you put the night mode on, but there's still a little moon that's all lit up. I don't want any light. The third one I have is the Molecule, which works really good too. I put that downstairs. The problem with the Molecule, it uses this PET technology that emanates light for killing different compounds, which is good. I like it, but the problem is it's not really usable for a bedroom because I can't have any light on in bedroom. So I use that in my family room. The Molecule looks nice. It looks pretty. So I like it in my family room because it's just nice looking. The Austin Air is okay, not quite as pretty. So that goes in offices and bedrooms. And then I use the Air Doctor in one of my son's rooms as well. So Austin Air would be my favorite right now. If you go to my site, I sell them on my website too. I have the Air Doctor up there too as well. And then the Advanced Air is a really good one that's a little more cost effective. So it depends on kind of your budget. All right, excellent. Oh, and then best way to keep your room dry, I have an April Air whole house dehumidifier. That's the easiest way. If you're fortunate enough to have like an HVAC air system, just plug it into that. It's just so much easier. If you don't, just get a standalone dehumidifier and find a plumber that can plug it into a water line so then it will just drain automatically. That's the best way to keep your moisture down. Try to keep it to 50% or less. Any way to darken hair naturally? It depends. Are we talking like darken back to your natural hair color? So that's the enzyme catalase is involved with the hair going gray. So upregulating catalase is going to be sulfur amino acids and glutathione. So glutathione, sulfur amino acids, a lot of the plant-based nutrients that you're going to get. So green juice, those kind of things can be helpful too. Selenium is really helpful. So those are the big things to help with hair color. Now, regarding darkening above and beyond your natural color, you'd want to go reach out. I think Avita Salon's pretty good. My wife would go there. They have some good natural compounds that they use that are less toxic to change hair color and such. Notice I get very ill when having fermented foods. My body crashes, digestion is very poor. Why? You have probiotic intolerance. It's probably because there's a significant amount of bacterial overgrowth in the gut. So when you throw all this good bacteria, there's essentially a war going on. And the bad bacteria is probably feeding off of a lot of that, and it's creating a lot of gases, methane, hydrogen gases. So you have to get the gut better looked at and see what's going on. Suppressor writes in, is colloidal silver safe for my 8-year-old? I think it would be. You just have to just kind of start with a very low dose. Start with a low dose, and it depends why you're giving it. Do they have a sore throat, just a general infection? Just dose it based on weight. Depending on the colloidal silver, just look at the back of the bottle. And if there's an adult dose on there, I would just go at 25% of the adult dose. So if the adult dose was, 4 tablespoons, I would go to 1, so to speak. Mo writes in, what's your opinion of pregnenolone for low cortisol? I love pregnenolone. It's part of the foundation in my adrenal programs. Pregnenolone is a building block for about 30 different adrenal hormones, so it does provide good building block support for your adrenals, especially if cortisol is low. You just have to not make the mistake that other doctors do and just give that and ignore the root cause. So always get to the root cause, whether it's gut, digestion, infection, food, blood sugar, nutrition. Get to all of the root causes while that's being done. Ashley writes in, any tips to alleviate PMS, such as bloating and water retention? Yeah, most PMS is due to estrogen dominance. So we test women's hormones right at the peak of their luteal phase, typically around 19 to 22. Most are estrogen dominant, so we work on supporting that estrogen-progesterone ratio, right? We do it with herbs, things like chaste. We may actually use progesterone, but you have to get to the root cause. What caused that to begin with? Was there a food issue, blood sugar stuff, gut stress, poor sleep? What was the underlying cause to begin with? So really get to the root cause. And if you're having a hard time, you may want to work with a good functional medicine doc. Riley writes in, for the Great Plains mycotox test, I should take 4 to 8 pumps of glutathione right prior to testing. Yeah, like the day before and the day of is fine. Correct. Don writes in, is there a natural way to remove a skin tag, or is it better to have it be removed by a dermatologist? Oh, great question, Don. So you could do some apple cider vinegar in a cotton ball, and then just put that cotton ball on the skin tag and then put a wrap around it for a day or two. And a lot of times that will just take this, the skin tag will just fall off 100%. That'd be the easiest first way to handle that. Kevin writes, Dr. J, have you tried the Viome test? What are your thoughts on it? I'm familiar with it. I don't love the test. There's too much information and not enough of it's actionable. And then the information that comes back as like the action items is very oversimplified. Case in point, patients I've seen with gut issues, it's like, hey, by the way, your solution is eat avocados and sweet potato. It's like, all right, well, I'm already doing that, or I'm doing it now and nothing happened. So it becomes the solution they give is oversimplified and the data is convoluted and it's not actionable and there's too much stuff to even know what to do. So not a huge fan of that. All right, guys, any other questions? Feel free and let me know. Questions today were absolutely awesome. We got lots of viewers on here, so I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys engaging. Anything else at all before I let you all go? Give you one last minute for some questions to pour in. All right, so I'm 1 week out. Number 2 is coming next Friday, so I probably will not be here next Friday, just giving you all a heads up. So really excited about that. So number 2 is on our way. And his name will be Hudson, by the way, letting you guys know early. Love to know some mineral supplements that you recommend. So it depends. What kind of mineral? So the low-hanging fruit for minerals are going to be magnesium, because the CDC says 50% of the population is deficient in it. So magnesium's a low-hanging fruit. Potassium's pretty good as well. That's low-hanging because you get it in vegetables primarily, and avocados. So potassium, 4,700 milligrams of potassium. Magnesium, 500 to 1,000 milligrams. Redmond's real salt, 2,000 milligrams a day of that is great. And then, of course, your selenium at 200 micrograms and your zinc at 50 micrograms is a great way to start. First thing I seem to crave when detoxifying from fungal infection is nuts. Is this related to fungal organism craving it? Hard to say. It depends what kind of nuts. I mean, pumpkin seeds are very high in zinc. So it really just depends. If we talking peanuts, I'm okay with it as long as you know you can tolerate it. Thanks so much, Kelly. Appreciate it. Korvac writes in, is magnesium malate better for the morning? Yeah, I like it. It runs into the Krebs cycle a little bit better. Opinion on prebiotics? Yeah, after clearing is done. Absolutely. That can be helpful. Inulin, chicory root, prebiotic resistant starch can be helpful too. Unripened banana flour, cooled potato starch, that can be helpful too. Let me jump onto Facebook real quick. Best way to increase energy during the day. I have Lyme, Bart, and Bab. That's Laurie. Got to look at your adrenals, got to look at your thyroid, got to look at your mitochondria, because sometimes one or more of these pathways may not be working optimally. So it depends upon which area is working or not working. That's the general recommendation. So get a little bit of testing done first. Of course, the low-hanging fruit, B vitamins, CoQ10, those kind of nutrients, but get a little more testing to know. Why do I always crave sweets after eating? So number 1, you may not eat enough. Number 2, there could be bugs in your gut that are driving and creating chemicals that are causing you to crave. Number 3, make sure protein and fat is adequate. And if you went too long between meals, so if the meal you're having cravings on, let's say you ate at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then your first meal was maybe at 7, you could have just gone so long between meals that your blood sugar is dropped and you need a little bit more carbs at that meal to bring it back up. So you just got to look at the timing of food, and you got to make sure you're eating enough protein and fat. And 2, you may need to up the carbs a little bit too. Squash, sweet potato, handful of berries, that kind of thing. All right, excellent. Thanks, Jay, appreciate it. How to get rid of pimples. First, start with the diet. Sugar, get all the insulin out of your diet from all the junky carbohydrates. Start there, grain-free, dairy-free to start. Mo writes in a natural treatment for toenail fungus. Yes. So you can do, there's a couple things. There's a fungal foot blend that I use that works phenomenal. And then I have a nail fungus soak. If you go to justinhealth.com/shop, you'll see the nail fungus soak there. You mix it with apple cider vinegar, soak your feet for 5 minutes a day for 1 to 2 months, and that would help knock it out. Hope that helps, guys. Awesome. Well, I hope you guys have a phenomenal Friday. I may shoot out one more video for you guys today. I'll be back on Monday as well. So you guys have a phenomenal day, and we'll talk soon. All right, take care. Bye. Take care, Facebook.